What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. We're back at it again. It's another week, another day, beautiful day here in Toronto. I'm going to be kicking off with an interview with a gentleman by the name of Nathan. He's an interesting guy. He's running a company called Beeline Roots. He's the founder. Nathan's building in one of the sectors that needs AI the most and adopts it the slowest, right? So today he's showing why logistics may be one of the biggest real world AI opportunities out there that nobody's talking about. So help me welcome Nathan. Nathan, what's up?
Hey, Sunny, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. So you said you're calling in from Vermont, right?
Yeah, I think I'm farther north than you are in Toronto, but yeah, but it's beautiful here in the
How does
summer,
that
so.
work? What do you mean? You're
No, I
not
don't know.
further
I always
north
tell
than
people
me.
I'm in southern Canada, I tell people, but yeah, when you're
Southern
actually in
Canada.
Canada, then you're like, no, no.
Cool. Well, Nathan, nice to meet you. I like to start by just diving into the deep end. What are you building? What's Beeline Roots and why does it matter?
Yeah. So, I kind of got interested in this problem a few years ago now, but it's that classic traveling salesman problem, right? Where you have all these places you need to stop, and you want to minimize the cost of doing each route, each permutation of it. And so it's kind of a fun mathematical problem to tinker with. And, it's a classic business problem, right? They always talk about finding a problem to solve when you're doing a startup, right? And so this problem's been around for hundreds of years. And I think that the new technologies, the new stacks and stuff have really helped to solve this problem in new and innovative ways. So it's kind of fun to be breaking down those barriers each day. So
So you're talking to a traveling salesman, or was at least for most of my career. You want to break it down? What is that problem? And yeah, and like why does it matter? And again, I've heard it many times in the past, but it'd be nice to just get a refresher.
yeah. Well, so the first example that we did, Michelle and I founded Beeline over 5 years ago now. But one of the Michelle and I were working on a couple of different startup ideas and projects. But Michelle had a friend that was a real estate agent, and she wanted a way to enter like 6 addresses, 8 addresses, and create a route between them, right? So I created a simple working proof of concept, and she liked it. And then from there, we kind of expanded out to like what other verticals could use something like this. And we got connected pretty early on with House Call Pro. House Call Pro is like a field service management system, a SaaS platform, and they're building on an API for third parties to integrate with. And they wanted to have a store, and they reached out to us asking if we'd like to be like a preferred partner with them. So that really is what set us off down this path. So our target audience for something like this, the traveling salesman, yes. House Call specializes in small and medium-sized businesses. And so we have, some of our more popular ones are actually estimates. You travel around, estimates are pretty quick, typically 20 or 30 minutes. A single vehicle is doing 10, 15 estimates in a day. And especially when you start getting two people doing estimates, you're doing 50 estimates a day. And you're like, I can't do this in Google Maps. I can't do this on an Excel spreadsheet. Someone please help me. How do I divide these jobs into two routes in the order that is the best for drive time? And so, our traveling salesman problem ranges from estimates to lawn care to power washing to, servicing heat pumps. Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So Nathan, I guess one of my favorite things to do is to kind of just take it back a little bit, right? Like I love charting people's kind of hero's journey and why they're building what they're building, but like where they're from a little bit. So can you take me back to the moment that you decided to build this and what were you doing and what was broken?
Yeah. So I had actually had a full-time job. I was a little bored at it. Um, but I actually used Angel List. Remember that back in the day when Angel List was actually used to connect founders?
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I looked at Angel List, and then I found Michelle through that. And then we just started talking. We tried a couple of different business ideas. She's a great CEO mind. I like to think I'm pretty good with tech. So the two of us kind of tackle and challenge any problem we saw. But like I said, we kind of got just randomly down the traveling salesman for the real estate. And then Michelle does what Michelle does best, and she started reaching around for different ideas and verticals. And once we got word that House Call wanted this, like they were going to put us in our store, we were going to be their preferred partner for routing. That kind of really solidified it, because it wasn't just that we found some early adopters, right? We found a platform that had all of these early adopters, and they're like, we have a demand for your service. And so that kind of like jump started the this is what we need to build. And it also helped a lot with the what we build, right? So we knew it's actually kind of fun when you onboard with Beeline routes. Uh, you don't really do much. You just connect with House Call, and we pull in your crew members, we pull in your jobs. Like that's the onboarding. So you just start up Beeline, connect, and now all your data is there, right? We're always synchronizing, and so having that framework really allowed us to get a product up and running faster than you normally would with a startup, right? You didn't have to answer a lot of the questions about where the data was going to live and what the data was going to look like. This is the data we have about a job. Like we don't have to think about it. Like House Call has the data. We have an address, we have a customer name, like all those problems are already solved for us. So the early versions of Beeline, we were just seeing what data was in the API and displaying it in front of the user. So that became our rapid prototype, so to speak.
That's super interesting. So what's the growth journey right now? Like team size, customer count, like where are you right now, honestly?
Yeah. So we had some great early adopters, really influential in helping us scope what the product needed to be and needed to work like. At this point in time, we're growing pretty steadily, but the growth rate I would say is more linear than exponential. That's something we can get into too, but the the product that we have sells really well. If you ask anyone with a mobile workforce if they need help with routing, they will always say yes, right? Like, oh yeah, I do routes, I have routing, so I need help with that. The question is always, how much help do you need with that? Like a lot of people do routing, but they know the neighborhood so well, they're only doing 2 or 3 jobs a day per vehicle. They don't really necessarily need routing for that. We really specialize in companies that are doing 8, 10 jobs per day. I would say over half of our paying customers are doing 20 plus jobs per vehicle per day. It's that sort of, this is just an overwhelming problem. And so we thought we would work for everyone who travels, but it turns out we're more niche than we initially realized. That, you know, we have like pesticide spray, mosquito spray companies, a bunch of dog poop pickup companies. I didn't know that was a thing before starting to do this, but we're really specializing in, there's so many routes, we can't do it any other way, which is kind of a fun thing to be. Like we are solving a problem for a business that would not be able to really exist or thrive without us. There's just no way to manually do this. So
Wow, that's super cool. So, field service software is a crowded space, right? It's
yeah.
unglamorous as well. Like, why go there?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, when we got the request from House Call, one of the reasons we liked it was, well, this will give us access to all the House Call users, right? We're in their store and stuff like that. But also, I built this all up with API first technology. And so I call them an integration in code. The backend's all written in Golang. And so they're essentially interfaces in Go, but like you can think of like just templated objects. But you can connect with, Pipedrive, Workies, Service Pro. Like there's several other APIs that we integrate with, and it's just plug and play for me. It's like, what do you integrate with? Okay, here's where your data comes from. Here's where your data goes. So we initially thought that that would be a very clever idea, because you're right, the CRM FSM market is very saturated, hyper competitive. I don't want to say it's a race to the bottom, but it's a race for features, is really what it is. And so we were able to turbocharge House Call by being this routing system for them, and we're hoping we can do the same, for other FSMs as well. A lot of FSMs, and House Call has actually introduced this since integrating with us. It's been around like maybe a year now, where there is this map view drag and drop kind of manual thing. And again, that goes back, like if you have one vehicle that you're routing 5 jobs for, and you just need to drag job 4 up the job spot 2, that's great. It works really quickly. Um, like I said, we've been moving toward, and our current customers are telling us like they're looking for, we have customers that are doing 100 jobs a day, 200 jobs a day, dividing them between 8 vehicles, 10 vehicles. It's just not a drag and drop. It's not something where you can even see all the pins on a map, right? We're pulling in that level of data. And so it works out. It works out really well for us because we're, like I said, creating this solution that they just would not be able to overcome otherwise. But also, like, it narrows down our Venn diagram of customers a little bit. But hopefully, by expanding the different FSMs, we can continue to grow that way.
So you said something more in the intake that I wanted to dig in as well. So you said everyone thinks they know what routing means, but when you actually talk to them, it's like fascinating what they need. So can you give me three most like kind of
Yeah,
different answers you've heard?
yeah. And I was just gonna say, I do say routing. I tell people it's because I lived in the Midwest in Wisconsin for like 5 years, but yeah, so I always call it routing. But yeah, for routes, yeah. So you have pretty standard stuff where like talk about like pesticide spray, mosquito spray. We have a bunch of mosquito spray, different pesticide spray people. They can arrive at any time, right? And so they have 50 jobs to do today between 2 vehicles. Uh, they can arrive at any time that day. They can actually arrive at any time that week. And so a lot of those people will actually take Monday through Friday all at the same time in Beeline, tell us they want 2 routes a day. They click go. We pull in 400 jobs. We divide them between 10 total routes, 2 per day per vehicle. And then we kind of dump that all out for them. So a job that was on Thursday now got moved to Tuesday because we can like hyper optimize things. So we can dial that in very well. That's one version of routing. Another version of routing, and I also put this one into like scheduling too. These are like the home service companies where the person needs to be there. They need to tell this customer 5 days ahead of time, we will be at your house between noon and 3, right? You kind of lock that in. You got to make that promise. You got kind of got to be there, right? So they want predictive ahead of time of what is a good date, time, and crew member to add this new job right away to what we expect to be a good date and time. And so it's routing, it is. It's also scheduling, and it's also like you kind of have to be a little tricky with those. You have to look at what the other jobs are around. And you have to look at the drive times based on the predicted traffic patterns, and you have to decide if, if that 45 minutes of drive time isn't worth it on Tuesday, then you have to tell the customer we'll be there Wednesday. We can't fit you in Tuesday. So that's another version of routing that I would say is relatively straightforward. Like, it makes sense. But there's also all these other permutations where you really get into the nuances of how they actually handle their business. And they're like, well, I don't usually like to use the dump truck if I don't have to, like a specialty vehicle. Or they'll tell me that, like, oh, well, I usually send Sean up north because he knows those roads better. Or I usually avoid, all these sorts of things. Um, and it's just it's a struggle for us to be able to extract all this data from the our users' heads that have this intrinsic knowledge of their customers' preferences and their crew members' preferences and stuff like that. And so you end up with these situations where, like, there's all these customized rules and stuff, and we've done what we can with tags for making jobs unique and stuff. But like, there's companies that Steve only should be able to do 5 jobs in a day, and like Mike works faster, so I want to give him more jobs a day. And it ends up being like these customized things where, like, this truck has only this capacity and therefore it can only do 2 big jobs a day, right? And so we're looking at the duration of the job to understand how many they can do. And it ends up being this like very customizable system, which is great because we can support most things, but it also means that there's a learning curve and there's an onboarding. And a good percentage of our customers are like white glove kind of service. Like, tell me about your vehicles. What can this one do? What's this GVRW? Those sorts of things.
How do these customers find you, or how do you find
Yeah,
them?
so that's actually been a great struggle of ours, so to speak, because you can't just onboard with Beeline. You need to be on an FSM that we integrate with. And so it's very tough to just run ads because we can run ads, we can get people in, but the number of people who fit into one of our FSMs is just kind of tough. And so we've been at the mercy, so to speak. Although most of them are pretty good, they want to be competitive. They want to show they have routing and scheduling optimizations, right? But we're kind of at the mercy of the house calls of the world to be in their app stores, to have a good looking page. Um, like at this point in time, House Call's got the AI chat assistant. And so if you ask the AI chat, how do I do routing? They'll suggest Beeline, right? And so we're integrated into their help, their sales funnels. Um, about half the calls I get, I think, are with customers who are looking to migrate to House Call. Or half the House Call customers I talk to are looking to migrate to House Call, and they want to know what the capabilities are in the systems and stuff like that. And so our onboarding right now really is those users who are on a FSM that we integrate with. And then we do a lot of stuff with email tracking and re-engagement. So once you've talked to Beeline routes, then we start showing up in your Instagram feeds and stuff like that. But organic customer growth for ads is tough. Yeah, no, it's always been a struggle of ours, actually.
Interesting. So how do you build one product for customers who all mean different things by the same word, like without, ending up with like a bloated mess?
Yeah, no, it's the back end is actually kind of fun. I had a lot of neat ideas on this, and I think it came out pretty well as far as how it scales and how it handles things. But the underlying back end I can actually use for all of our products. The goal is to take some number of jobs and break them apart into routes. So when we run, we call it a daily, but classic, you have 50 jobs, give me 2 routes, right? We do modified k-means and we divide them into 2 routes. Then we kind of go through some permutations for identifying a pattern, like a minimized drive time pattern, and it ends up looking like a circle a lot of the times. But so that works out fine. But then we're trying to figure out, like I said, with the scheduling thing, we call that best fit. I have this customer, I need an hour there. When's the best time to do this over the next 2 weeks? All I'm doing is I'm looking at the upcoming days for those crew members. They have 4 existing jobs, and I shove in this fifth one just to see how good it fits. So I end up running a bunch of dailies back to back. And we have another feature called Job Stacker, and that's if you have like 400 jobs you need to do sometime this month, right? We take the 400 jobs and break them apart and try to identify like small routes. But it all works kind of on the same underlying principle. So fortunately, the actual kernel, so to speak, of the code is actually the same. It's this routing engine. You have 10 jobs, you have 20 jobs. Put them on, figure out the permutation of jobs that minimizes drive time. So we're able to reuse and leverage that core model to have all of these different effects. Like, what are you looking for as a customer? You want to take all the jobs in August, rearrange them for your best thing? Great, here it is. You want to take these jobs need to happen once a month, and these jobs need to happen once every 2 weeks, and you want to figure out patterns, we can do that as well. So yeah, it fortunately worked out, looking back on what I wrote starting 5 years ago.
That's good. So
Yeah.
where does like what is like one click breakdown? Like what is the case your optimizer cannot solve?
Yeah, so it was actually really interesting when we first started working on this,
Mm,
talking about errors, right? Like
right.
what do we do when we can't do a route?
Mm,
Um, and like a great example is a lot of people misuse their FSMs, and so you'll see people on board, and all their jobs are 8 hours long, right? So they pull in 10 jobs, and we think they have 80 hours of jobs. um, what we ended up doing is we ended up just making it work. And so if you give us inputs that creates 3 days of driving, we'll give you 3 days of driving. If you create inputs that are with invalid addresses, like ones we can't look up, we'll just skip those. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, it's not pulling in this job. Our top FAQ customer support for that is the address is probably invalid. Um, or it goes to an airport. Google does not like to route people to airports, which looking at it, I guess I understand because they don't want you driving in the wrong spot at an airport. But if you're servicing an airport, like if cleaning people, I always have to like have them redo as a terminal A or something like that. Google Maps, the API anyway. He's finicky about airports. But yeah, but you end up with this situation where we always try to return something. We really do, whether it's really long in several days, whether or not we had to ignore it because of an address. But even stuff with like an island. So I do all this testing, right? I live in Burlington, right? So there's ferries, right? So we handle ferries for stuff like that. We add an extra penalty because people don't like to take ferries unless they have to. But you can put a point out on an island, and we'll still essentially estimate that it takes you a long time to get there. So it becomes a bad route. So if you have a stop on an island, it'll typically be like one of the last stops of the day or something like that. But to that point, we want to return it. Like you told us you needed to get to this island. If there's not a ferry to the island, we'll still try to figure out a way for you to get there. But yeah, but the no errors version is what we called it. Where just whatever you gave us, I will do my best to give you a route for it.
And how much of the win is time saved versus jobs added per day? Like, which number do customers actually care about?
So that's where we struggle as well in our marketing. So to be honest, our immediate value add is the time saved of the office person, right? And I tell people this, like, no
Got
office
it.
admin, no office admin is randomly sending their vehicles out. Like people are like, oh, you're saving drive time. It's like, no, no, no. If you have a experienced in-office admin, the route that they come up with will be very comparable to our route. Like you're not going to save any time. If you're an office person who's been doing this for 20 years, spends an hour on Google Maps and spreadsheets, whatever, creating these routes, we will probably not beat that. But we can do that in about 20 seconds. So the time we're saving is actually the admin's person, the one that's actually creating the routes. That's the time that we're saving. And when you start doing that, yes, we have customers who tell us that they'll add an extra job per day or something like that. That does happen. And I don't want to say it doesn't happen, right? Because it's a great value add. But the real value add for us is now you can have a third truck. A great percentage of our users knew about us, but only came to us when they're like, we're maxing out 2 trucks a day. They want to go to 3. I can't manually route 3 trucks anymore. Like, you don't have to. Beeline can do that for you. So I would say the real time saves for the admin person, and the real value add, yes, another job per day sometimes, but it's going to 3 routes. It's having another vehicle that you can just immediately and easily route for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how does a customer's first week look like, and where do they churn if they do?
Yeah, no, it's good. So I would say that we do a 2-week onboarding or a 2-week free trial. You onboard, you connect with your CRM. And like I said, we pull all the data, it's all there. So here's your map. You can click Beeline My Day and we'll create a route for you, create 2 routes for you. The the typical journey, to be honest, is someone will come in, they'll click around. I would say a good percentage of our users will figure it out. They'll figure out the check boxes. We have help articles, we have videos. I would say a good percent of our users are very overwhelmed. The other thing is, and we need to work on this better with our messaging, is they're afraid to touch anything. So you see your jobs, you see your routes, and they don't want to make any changes because they're afraid it'll update house call and they won't be ready. In our system, we only update house call after like a confirm routes. Then are you sure this will update house call, right? And so we need to be better about that messaging. But a good percent of our users see it, kind of get overwhelmed, they're afraid, and they'll do a demo. And so we offer live demos. Myself or Jen or Michelle would do a demo with you. We'll walk you through the process, how we work for your business. Not all businesses need all of our tools, right? Most businesses are primarily on one of our tools. But we'll walk you through that. So I was gonna say a good percentage of our users have had 1 or 2 demos before they even start paying. Like I said, we have a good percentage that will figure it out on their own. And then the rest of them we're chasing down. It's like, hey, I saw you did a trial. Didn't look like you got to use it much, right? Because we record our own analytics on how many optimizations they ran, and then kind of like trying to chase them down and be like, what did you like? What didn't like? A lot of them were just like, oh, I was just experimenting, exploring. I saw you in the store, wanted to see what it would do. But yeah, the
Right.
price is also interesting too.
What's
Um,
that?
yeah, so it's really interesting. I can't say no one, but very few people on our system have any sort of like modified pricing. Like we get a lot of people like, do you offer discounts and whatever and stuff like that. But the way our customer has been is it's been very binary. They either get it, need it, and this is what they need to run their business and to grow, and so they pay us. Or they're like, well, and because we start at $65 a month, right? So it's like this is not for in my head, this is not like a big cost, but they kind of are like, well, this is a little expensive for what I was looking for, or something like that. And so we've actually learned that that just means that they probably don't need us. Because we're definitely one of those services that either we are in completely needed for your business model, the solutions that we provide, or you can't live without sort of a thing. Or it's like, oh, maybe it's a nice to have. Maybe I would use it sometimes. Like sometimes I have a busy day and it would be nice or something like that. But yeah, our customers that do onboard because they really do need us. They're very price insensitive on that part, actually.
And you mentioned that you integrate with House Call Pro, Workis, Pipedrive,
Yeah.
ServiceWorks. Are integrations your distribution channel or just table stakes?
I don't know if I would call them table stakes. I think our competitors, for the most part, are people who import and export CSVs, like Excel sheets, for doing the routing. There's a lot of those, route planner onlines and stuff like that. I think our value add is the fact that we integrate with your CRM, right? Like you don't have to export your daily jobs; they just show up. And so I'd like to think that we're a little unique in that aspect, especially that we are integrated with several partners and always looking for more. But no, I think that's one of our strongest value adds actually, is that it's so simple to use. We are a separate website. We get that question a lot. Do I have to go to another website? I was like, yes. We would love to be more integrated with like a House Call Pro or something like that. But yeah, but like a white label maybe. But yeah, but I think that that's kind of our value add, not table stakes. Yeah.
Do companies like that have APIs, like the House Call Pro and these
So
guys?
yeah, so House Call Pro and those guys, they have APIs. It does become a little interesting of a game, so to speak, where like, because like Workies is a good example. I can't create a customer in Workies. So that feature is disabled, unfortunately, even though it can be a very useful feature for you to add a new customer right from Beeline. You have like the Service Titan, right? The gorilla in the room. They have private API is the best way to call it. They have preferred partners that they have vetted and allowed in, but it's not a public API. They haven't yet let us integrate with their system. A lot of those ones are more like, oh, we already have routing or something like that. It's like, yeah, but we do really cool routing. But yeah, but we need a public API and we need someone who's friendly. There's other ones that we haven't integrated with because they don't really have a store. Although Workies is an example, they don't have a store. We just integrate with their API, but it really, if we build it, they don't come. Like we need visibility into the CRM's, community, so to speak, where we show up and people can find us. Like that's where we get the value add for creating yet another API integration.
The free trial with unlimited optimization, that's a really confident offer. Like, what does that do to your conversion, and does it ever get abused?
So great question. Great question. So when we started, we did a 1 week trial, and then that essentially wasn't long enough because someone would onboard, and then we would resetting. We were resetting trials constantly, and then we did a 1 month trial, and that really wasn't any better because they would use us once or twice and then they just wouldn't use us like week 3, week 4, they just weren't using us, right? Even with like the email drip campaign. So we ended up going with 2 weeks because it created enough time where we could justify, like no one complains 2 weeks isn't enough, but it also created a sense of urgency. And if they're reaching out to reset it, it was a great line, but let's set up a demo, let's understand your use cases, those sorts of things. The unlimited use is part of our business model. I wanted that from the beginning. I did not want someone to not want to click on, Beeline My Day because they were afraid that we would charge them 15 cents in like some sort of like tokenized unit measure or something like that. I wanted them to feel free to just run optimizations. Um, and for the trial period, we can't just do one or two routes with 10 or 20 jobs max or something like that. They wouldn't get the feel. Like if you're coming to us, it's because you have 100 jobs. It's because you have 6 trucks. Like that's why you're coming to us. And so we didn't feel they'd be able to get uh, a proper trial unless they could actually use our system as they needed to. And so that's why I think, that's why I think that works out the best. I definitely haven't found anyone abusing us, so to speak, during our trial, which has been good. Like we get IDs from like if they integrate with House Call and they set up another trial and integrate with House Call again, like we merge them and stuff. So like you can't like keep signing up for free trials, right? But I think again that goes back to like I was saying, our users they're not looking to save $20 on their routing solution, right? Because we'll get people that's like, oh, you're more expensive than like whatever my route's online or something. I'm like, yep, we are, but we are a different service. Like we have a different value add than that. So our customers are the ones that are like, this is going to fundamentally change my business. I need Beeline routes.
Got it. You're saying that field service is one of those like last industries to digitize, right? What is the actual blocker? Is it software? Is it the operator's habits? Like why is it where it is?
So for us in our industry, because we do have some companies with like 10, 12 vehicles, couple of franchises, multiple locations, but we're not enterprise, right? We're not fleet management or anything like that. And so a lot of our owners are, a 60-year-old husband wife team, right? And like he was doing power washing for years, then created his own power washing company, and they have a map with pins on it hung on the wall, and all their routing and calendars are done through an Excel spreadsheet, right? And they're like, do we need something more than this to work with your system? It's like, yeah, you do. So those ended up being a conversation about migrating to like a house call pro or something like that. I think the adoption has to do with time. I think if you ask anyone, they'll always tell you they're busy. Just ask them, they'll tell you they're busy. So a lot of these companies are busy, but they're missing out on this automation. Like I realize that like learning something new can be challenging, and it can be a sunken cost. Like maybe this ends up not being the thing for you, but it allows you to free up time in your day. And that's what I tell people, because our sales funnel is long. It's actually surprisingly long. I would say our sales funnel is like over 3 months, close to 6, of when first contact to when they're paying. And a lot of it's because the owner needs to sign off and understand, the admin person needs to sign off and understand. There's just like this back and forth of, is this a good idea? Should we do it? Whatever. But I think that the slow adoption is mostly because everyone is so busy, they're all running around. And I think that technology can seem scary to a lot of the private owners, because a lot of times they are living very tight on their monthly budgets too. So
Hey, Nathan, maybe like just 10 years out, right? Autonomous vehicles, drones,
yeah.
robots doing the visits. Like, does Beeline become the dispatcher for machines instead of people, or are we getting ahead of ourselves here?
Oh, that's fun. No, so I'd like to think that we built out a really really great algorithm, and some really great code for it. That being said, could like SpaceX create a better routing schedule? Probably, right? Uh, I have not thought that far ahead. We definitely get questions about electric vehicles. We can drop in charging stations and stuff like that into routes as well. I usually tell people that you don't want to charge in the middle of the day, right? And so we usually just limit the number of miles for a specific vehicle. Like this vehicle can't travel over like 300 miles in a day or in a route, sort of a thing. Um, we've talked ourselves internally about drones for package delivery, right? We haven't not been able to break into the package delivery market. That one's tough, because either people want their package right away, so you're just delivering the one package. Like we did a lot of stuff with like DoorDash and stuff, but like the or Instacart, but it was too unusual for someone to be delivering even two people's groceries. It was just a one and done. Like you go to the grocery store, you go to your Target. You go back to the grocery store, you go to your Target. There wasn't a route to be created. And then FedEx hasn't returned our calls. Waiting to hear back from FedEx, but no. But yeah, but no, I haven't thought about. That's a good. It's a
That's
good point.
okay.
There, yeah,
It's coming. So what I
coming.
guess what's the counterintuitive thing you believe about SMB software that your investors or peers would kind of push back on?
Counterintuitive. So I would tell you one thing that I thought was interesting was the speed. I really thought when I was building this that I had to return, data quickly. I had to be able to create these routes in like, 10 seconds or something like that. They're waiting. Um, it turns out, like I asked this most of our users, and it returns fast. Like you can run like 400 jobs, maybe it takes like 45 seconds a minute. But no one cared how long that took. The only time people cared was when they were on the phone with someone, and that one we optimized differently. So that way you're always we do it one day at a time, so data comes back right away. But yeah, when someone's running like 100, they want 8 routes on 120 jobs. They're happy to click go and come back in 10 minutes. It was just kind of surprising. Like I had built up this feature in my head. This had to be fast. And it turned out that no one needed it to be fast, right? You're running it once a day or something like that, and you're doing something else, while you're running the thing. So I think speed was kind of one thing that was interesting. Um, the other thing that I think is interesting, and I kind of love that you do so much with AI and stuff, is I started this 5 years ago. So I started all this code from scratch, right? All the backend code from scratch. That was a good bit before, like at least a year before ChatGPT 3, or at least 3.5 came out. And so when I was building this and talking to investors or small business people and stuff, there's that joke about if you're in sales, you call it AI, and if you're in engineering, you call it machine learning. So we used to say like, and because a lot of this, like I said, a lot of this is machine learning algorithms. There's a lot of logarithmic regressions in it. We have like this kind of pretty cool, like I call it three-dimensional k-means squared. But like we have a lot of these machine learning tools in the back end. And so when we were starting out, like, yeah, it's we use a lot of AI and all this sort of thing. And then now, like last few years, it's like, no, actually, we're not asking Claude to rearrange your jobs for us. You have to be like careful what you call AI. So I think a lot of people now, when they onboard, it's like, oh, you're just using AI to create these routes, and it's just like, well, no, actually, I don't think that even Opus or something like that would be able to really give you a route of 100 jobs into 8 routes with arrival windows for half the jobs and stuff like that. It's not, large language models aren't going to solve that problem. So I do have to tell people that now.
Why is that? I mean, these things are kind of nuts, right? Like, is it just the complexity and just like there's just way too many like potential ways
Yeah,
to make
well,
that happen,
yeah.
or
So yeah, like well, it's good, like high level. So everything's a factorial in this. So if you're routing like 6 jobs, right, that's like 1,000 different permutations of how you go through 6 jobs, right? When you're doing, more than that, you get into the, can't even count that high number pretty quickly. We do a bunch of cool things with clustering and a bunch of cool things with Google Maps AI API to do estimations for drive times and stuff, because we can identify peninsulas, we can identify islands. We use shape files, right, to identify geographic locations. We use shape files for rivers and stuff like that. Um, and so we do a lot of things to speed up coming up with these routes, and including actually calling Google Maps API at the end to get estimated traffic patterns and stuff like that. And it's just not something that an AI model can do yet anyway. And so you can probably ask it like 4 or 5 stops, and especially if you do big cities, it'll kind of make a circle for you, right? But no, I'm not worried about AI taking over these types of algorithms yet. But on our roadmap here is I would like to build out like an MCP sort of a thing, right? So that way Claude or someone could actually, you have your own AI agents running. They come up with these 20 jobs that need to be done. They call us right, for an MCP, get that route back from us and then continue on with their process. And so I do envision that happening here, hopefully in the next year. But that would be like how we would actually integrate with a large language model.
That's really interesting. Cool. Well, Nathan, you've been so kind. I see we have almost 40 people listening live. Thank you all for tuning in. Nathan, where do people learn more about you? Where do people learn more about Beeline? And yeah, with that, I'll
Yeah.
bring this stream to an end.
Yeah, no, thank you. So yeah, we can check us out at beelineroutes.com, beelineroutes.com. And yeah, so like I said, we integrate with several different partners. If you're interested in routing your own business, or if you have a business that's looking for routing, we are an API first integration. We can get you some API keys if you want to do it that route. And like I said, we're hopefully going to be an MCP setup here on our roadmap. So yeah, but thanks for having me.
Awesome. Nathan, hang out maybe for just a minute. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. And then thanks again, all of you, for tuning in. Until next time. Cheers.